Looking back in history, we more clearly can get a feel for the escalating drug crisis we are experiencing today. Let's examine some key points. 1861 to 1865. During the Civil War, medics used morphine as a battlefield anesthetic. Many soldiers became dependent on morphine after the war. It's interesting to note that drugs were already being consumed at alarming rates long before the Civil War started. 1898. Heroin is first produced commercially by the Bayer Company. At the time, heroin is believed to be less habit-forming than morphine, so it is dispensed to individuals who are addicted to morphine. 1914. Congress passes the Harrison Narcotics Act, which requires that doctors write prescriptions for narcotic drugs like opioids and cocaine. Importers, manufacturers, and distributors of narcotics must register with the Treasury Department to pay taxes on the product. 1924. The Anti-Heroin Act bans the production and sale of heroin in the United States. 1970. The Controlled Substances Act becomes law. It created groupings or schedules of drugs based on the potential for abuse. Heroin is a Schedule I drug, while morphine, fentanyl, OxyContin, Percocet, OxyContin, and methadone are Schedule II. Hydrocodone-acetaminophen combination was originally a Schedule III medication but wasn't recategorized as a Schedule II drug until October of 2014. January 10, 1980. A letter titled "Addiction Rare in Patients Treated with Narcotics" is published in the New England Journal of Medicine. It was not a study and looked at incidences of addiction in a very specific population of hospitalized patients who were closely monitored. However, it would become widely cited as proof that narcotics were a safe treatment for chronic pain. 1995. OxyContin, a long-acting version of oxycodone, which slowly releases the drug over 12 hours, is introduced and aggressively marketed as a safer pain pill by manufacturer Purdue Pharma. May 10, 2007. The federal government brings criminal charges against Purdue Pharma for misleadingly advertising OxyContin as safer and less addictive than other opioids. The company and 3 executives are charged with misleading and defrauding physicians and consumers. Purdue Pharma and the executives plead guilty, agreeing to pay $634.5 million in criminal and civil fines. The 3 executives plead guilty on criminal misdemeanor charges and are later sentenced to probation. 2010. FDA approves an abuse deterrent formulation of OxyContin to help curb abuse. However, people still find ways to abuse it. May 20th, 2015. The DEA announces that it has arrested 280 people, including 22 doctors and pharmacists, after a 15-month sting operation centered on healthcare providers who dispensed large amounts of opioids. The sting, dubbed Operation Pilluded, is the largest prescription drug bust in the history of the DEA. March 18, 2016. The CDC publishes guidelines for prescribing opioids for patients with chronic pain. Recommendations include prescribing over-the-counter pain relievers like acetaminophen and ibuprofen in lieu of opioids. Doctors are encouraged to promote exercise and behavioral treatments to help patients cope with pain. March 29, 2017. The President signs an executive order calling for the establishment of the President's Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and the Opioid Crisis. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is selected as the chairman of the group, with Jared Kushner as an advisor. July 31, 2017. After a delay, the White House panel examining the nation's opioid epidemic releases its interim report, asking the president to declare a national public health emergency to combat the ongoing crisis. September 22, 2017. The pharmacy chain CVS announces that it will implement new restrictions on filling prescriptions for opioids, dispensing a limited 7-day supply to patients who are new to pain therapy. November 1st, 2017. The Opioid Commission releases its final report. Its 56 recommendations include a proposal to establish nationwide drug courts that would place opioid addiction in treatment facilities rather than prison. February 27, 2018. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announces a new opioid initiative, the Prescription Interdiction and Litigation Task Force. The mission of the task force is to support local jurisdictions that have filed lawsuits against prescription drug makers and distributors. May 1st, 2018. The Journal of the American Medical Association published a study that found synthetic opioids like fentanyl caused about 46% of opioid deaths in 2016. That's a 3-fold increase compared with 2010, when synthetic opioids were involved in about 14% of opioid overdose deaths. It's the first time the synthetic opioids surpassed prescription opioids and heroin as a primary cause of overdose fatalities. Dr. Russell Portnoy, the doctor who wrote one of several studies that claimed that there was little risk of addiction in using opioids to treat chronic pain, later made this statement, quote, "Clearly, if I had an inkling of what I know now then, I wouldn't have spoken in the way that I spoke. It was clearly the wrong thing to do." Over the years, a lot has been discovered regarding the nature and treatment of drug addiction. If you or someone you know is battling addiction, please seek professional help. Addicts can stop, but they have to be motivated. It takes the realization that their family, their future, their employment, all these are becoming severely compromised. There are a lot of recovery strategies that drug and alcohol users figure out that work exceptionally well. For example, change whom you associate with. You can't buy drugs if you decide to never carry cash. Many people decide they can't recover on their own and decide to go into professional treatment. That's taking matters into one's own hands, setting you on the path to recovery. For more information, contact the Institute for Addiction Study. The link is in the description. If you find this information useful, please don't forget to subscribe.